Right, welcome back everyone. All-in's just gone. I've brought you back to Partridge. I was going to go to Marston Fields this month, but the lake that was in was Laurels, and it doesn't really do me any favours for that Fish Midlands, so I was going to fish the Fish Midlands and use it as a bit of a practice, but it's not the lake we're going to be on, so it's pretty pointless really. And one of the lakes that was in Laurels, the fish was quite small, so I didn't want to go there and catch loads of small 3-4 ounce fish. You know, I've had a few people ask when we're going to come back to Partridge. I did quite a few on here last year, but we'll come back, we'll have a little go. I've been for a while myself, to be honest, so I've drawn peg 80 today on Lake 4. Not the peg I'd want to be on, I'll be honest, because it's not really the best lake. I'd rather be on lakes 1 or 2. But what we should get is plenty of bites of small fish and rudd. There's a million rudd boiling in my peg there, which is not going to be good. Could get absolutely hammered by them. When I've been on here coaching in the last few weeks, ground bait's been not as good. So going down a pellet approach today. Got some corn if need be. So we're just going to start on soft pellets, see what sort of response we get. Keep feeding maggots down the middle, hopefully them rudd bugger off, but literally there's 20 rudds swirling on the surface there. That's not a good sign. That generally means there's not that many other fish about. So I'll start down here. Could be an edge day. I've plumbed up short here, but there's a lovely looking cutout just in the bank there, but it's really, really slopey. There's a little bite straight away. It's a good sign. It's really, really slopey. Can't really get my rig on it proper. If we start getting lots of problems just fishing down this slope bit, then I will potentially try and come up into it. It's about 4 to 5 inch shallower. But I'm just going to start down the slope and just see if we can get some signs and then play it by there. It's absolutely alive with rudd there. That's going to do my head in, I reckon. I've got a 4x16 rig on for that reason, because I knew we'd get a few silly fish, little rudd coming in. There's a little stocky. So I'm expecting quite a lot of these, hopefully. It's one of the original stockies, that. We've got two sort of classes of stockies on here. You've got these ones which are from last year, and then you've got some slightly smaller ones which they put in this year, well this winter, and then obviously you've got the older F1s. I don't know if you can see that on camera, but it's just boiling like mad shallow. Little rudd. So I'm feeding a medium guru with micros in. I'm just going to start on an expander. You've been putting ground bait in lately. What's been happening is the fish are coming to it 100%, but they're really tricky to catch. So hopefully by fishing micros, it might be a little bit easier to catch. If we start catching some older F1s, we've got some corn, but if we're just catching stockies, we'll probably just stick to expanders and just try and tick along on this line. The plan is obviously to catch up and down on maggots as well. You know, it'd be nice if we could get a few shallow and a few on the bottom. It's probably about 5 foot there. But then rudd are probably eating all the maggots at the moment as they're going down. Oh, that's a better one. Tell you what, just catch like this all day, I'll be happy. I'm not expecting a massive weight off these lakes. Lake 1 has probably been the best lake. Been quite a few carp showing on that lake, which has been bumping the weights up. These lakes, Been a lot of stockies showing. It has changed a little bit this last 12 months on here. There's a lot more bites, but the weights have not been as big. You know, the carp not been showing on this lake as much, which has not been bumping the weights up. You know, you used to get like 5 or 6 6-pounders, and that extra 30 pound would be massive come the end of the day. Take it from 110 to 140. But a lot of the nets have been a few of the older F1s and stockies. And when I drew this peg this morning, I didn't want to be here. The only good thing we've got going for us is he's not put 77 into my right, so we have got like 4 spare pegs that way, and any bit of room like that has got to help, even if it's just another 20-30 pound extra. You know, it might just mean that any fish that are to my right will just swim down to me and I'll be the first one to get them. You know, sort of like an end peg if you like, even though it's a round lake. I'm sort of end peg at this end of the lake. Another little sign. If I can just keep getting signs. I didn't think I'd get this many signs this early, to be fair. If I can just keep getting signs here, it'd be great. So many rudd there, it's ridiculous. It'd be great if we can just pick them off down this edge. I've got my big pot ready, but I'm not going to force it. I'm not going to feed it too aggressive down here. Basically just going to use this as a stocky line. If I come off it, I'll probably just put like 50-100 mil of micros in. I won't be putting big pots in trying to draw better stamp fish in. The bottom, like I said, is horrible there. It's real slopey. It looks really nice. Like you'd be looking at me float and thinking, why is he not fishing in that little cutout? Just back a little bit. But like I said, it jumps up and it's like a bit of a ski slope. So I've just come to the bottom of it. It's still not ideal there. I might even come off the bank a tidgy bit more yet, because I am fishing on a slight slope. So I might even come another 3 or 4 inch off the bank onto the totally flat bit. But what I'm hoping here is, because it's a bit slopey, it might just protect the fish, you know, protect my bait from getting wafted up that shelf any further. It might just help stop the fish going beyond my rig. As you can see, I'm about 3 inch off the bank here, but underneath the water it looks like a cliff face. So even though I'm 3 inch off the bank, it's actually like a little brick wall underneath. So just had a little sign then, a little bow wave out my peg. Not a carp, not a big fish. There was a bow wave. Now if that keeps happening, obviously I might catch in that little cutout. See how my rig's just sitting funny there now? Just push my rig up that slope, so lay it back to the left and draw it back into that slope. One thing I've noticed the last few weeks when I've been out coaching is how inaccurate some people are. Like when you're fishing like this, you've got to be really, really accurate. And sometimes when we're doing these videos, I take it for granted and I don't mention it, but it's a common theme the last few weeks. You know, people will feed the bait and the rig will be like 4 or 5 inch off their bait. You want to try and make sure that you keep your float smack bang on top of that bait, that little trap. And now what's happened here is I've had a couple of chucks. No fish. I need to come back in and set it, because them fish have probably wafted that bait about. Like, if you're feeding in this manner, it's almost impossible to overfeed, so don't be scared of feeding. If you've not had one, I know there's some bait still left in my peg, but basically I want to try and reset my trap and get them fish to just come back to that little spot. So I'm just watching there, threw some bait in there. There weren't as many rudd boiling right up near the surface. Whether that's because of the ducks, I don't know, but generally what happens is them rudd will bugger off Once the better stamped fish come in your peg, the rud will bugger off. But this is probably the worst lake for them. You know, they breathe like wildfire. You won't think they're in here sometimes when the water's coloured, and then it just goes a little bit clearer, and all of a sudden, you know, they're absolute pain in the backside. And that was a little stocky again. I've got grey hydro on here. To be honest, for these stockies, I could probably fish white, but then if I start catching some older fish, white might be a little bit undergunned. So that one then, it was foul up, that one, but it's a little bit bumpy sometimes for these stockies. This grey. So again, just turn your pot fully over, look at your marker, just drop your pellets in as quietly as possible. I'm not 100% happy with where I'm fishing at the moment. Probably going to give it another couple more feeds. Yeah, then rud just come back then. As them ducks moved away, the rud come back, so obviously they're a little bit scared of them ducks. Ducks are a good thing though, they'll give a bit of cover to my peg. Might help bring any F1s up. It's not a very good across peg here, you've got no mud line. There's no real carp here, so I'm not overly fussed about fishing across. If I was going to go across, I'd want to be fishing on the mud. So I'm just going to replumb this. I've just bumped 2 fish there. So when I'm fishing there, what I'm going to do now is just try and find a little spot that I'm happy with. And that's that bit of tape. See, it jumps up here. It's real horrible and slopey. Don't like that there. Let's try it. Let's have a look. If it don't go under, I can always come back down it. Let's just see if we can get a bit closer. I'm going to have to drag my float really close to that bank, like 1 or 2 inch off the bank max. The best thing to do when you do it like this is pull your back shot really close to your float and use that back shot. So my back shot is about 1.5 inches, 2 inches from my float now. I'm just going to have a couple of quick feeds there, see if I can catch them. If that's good, I'll shorten my line down. Shorten my line down just so I can keep it tighter to the bank. If this don't work, I'm going to drop down that slope a little bit, so let's just have a look. Put them pellets in, let that float come right towards the bank, and then my back shot right against the bank so it holds it like a little anchor. If I can catch them there, I've only literally got a 2 inch shelf there. My float moves 2 inches to the left, I'm off the bottom, and this is where I was speaking about accuracy then. Really, really important that you try and be as accurate as possible. Now if they come on to that little shelf, they haven't got as much room to waft my bait about. The bank is a little tidgy bit undercut, but not massively undercut, so hopefully if they do come up onto that, I should get cleaner bites. The problem is they might not come onto it. If they don't, I might just have to come back towards me. Let that air ambulance pass. I might just have to come back towards me and just find a bit flatter bit in the slightly deeper water. I'm constantly feeding that. All them rudd, still boiling there, all them rudd might be sat right up near the water surface. So when I drop on the bottom, there might actually be some F1s underneath on the deck. I'll just have to play it by ear. CPEG 95's got a fish on. There's not as many signs there. Well, I've not had a sign there yet. Can take a feed or two just to get them to come up onto that shelf. Might be a tidgy bit too shallow there, we'll see. When you're starting off like this, it's just trying to find that best little spot in your peg. It might change throughout the day. If I start getting some older fish coming in my peg, or I start getting line down that slope a little bit, I'll come up onto this little shallow bit again. Normally I would mark my depth on my top kit. I've not bothered today because I know I'll be moving about, changing little spots. So there's a little bite, first little sign there. Keep that rig right against the bank. Keep feeding these maggots. With a little liner. Pot wise, we're only really going to be fishing with 2 pots today. A medium guru and a large guru. Can't see me needing any more unless my peg goes absolutely solid with small fish and they're staying in my peg all the time, and I might cut it back a little bit, but I can't really see that happening. So I'm guessing that we're probably going to be fishing a medium or a large. And because we're just sticking to micros, you know, if we get desperate and we're not catching there, I can always mix a little bit of ground bait up and just add it to my micros just for a little tiny bit of cloud. Every time I've done that lately, it's just made them harder and harder to catch. So that's 3 stockies. Just switch my phone on to silent because I forgot to do it. You probably hear it bleep now and again. So yeah, starting off, I'm going to stay on this for a little bit until I feel like I see some signs of blowing or this sort of dies off a little bit. I'm going to stay on top of this little shelf. 3 stockies in the first 15 minutes, not mega, you know, we had a great little start there, 2 decent fish. But weight wise, I don't really know what weight we're fishing for. 120 pound one this lake, Sunday. You could easily catch that today if they have a feed, no problem, but the conditions are a little bit different. Probably the wrong end of the lake because the wind's going the other way, but we have got a bit of space as well, which will probably catch us a few more fish. So even though we're not in the right area, that little bit of space might compensate for that. I don't know what's going to be needed to win. £90 won the lake yesterday, £60 was second, so it weren't consistent. It was one round the other end of the lake on 92. So as far away from here as possible, to be fair, but there was a £60 on peg 77. So I'm not sure, you know, if we had £100 I would be mega happy, but it wouldn't surprise me if we caught £60 to £80. You know, you just got to see, conditions are not great, it's flat calm, quite bright. But we might start feeding later on, we don't know, so we'll plod on for now. We'll have a little catch up in a bit, keep feeding that maggots. Like I say, simple match today. We're going to need to catch, there's a little indication. Yeah, I've just seen a fish leave my peg then, so whenever you get a fish like that leave your peg, you get a little sign, just feed again. Don't sit there and not feed. Keep a bit of bait going in. So 2 inch off the bank, get that rig right onto it, keep it nice and still. If you draw it too far in like I did, just relay it outwards, that's better. You float, sit down, you know your bulk's not on the bottom then. So yeah, we'll plod on, we'll have a catch up in about an hour. Simple match because I feel like if we're going to do good, we're going to catch a lot of stockies. And if they're only averaging £1 a piece, you know, could be like 70 fish, you might need 70 fish for a ton. So if we need a ton to do well, to frame or whatever it's required, I'm not saying you're going to catch a ton, but if that's what you need, you know, that's the way you've got to set your match out. So fishing positive, in your margins here, up and down in the track, whether it be shallow or on the deck. Whether them rudd will cause us a major problem and be bitted out to death. That maggot line might be no good, in which case we'll probably have to spend most of our time fishing in the edge, but if that maggot line does come good, then hopefully we'll be able to catch some shallow. The only thing I will say is lately on here, best thing has been a jigger, because any sort of fixed rig and the rud have just been getting, you've just been getting battered by the rud on a fixed rig, whereas with a jigger or an overshotted rig, they don't tend to have as much time, well, not as much time, they tend not to pull your elastic out, they can't pull your elastic out, so you tend not to catch as many of them rud on an overshotted rig or a fixed rig. So yeah, I'll catch up in a bit and we'll see how we're getting on. Alright, let's have a little catch up. We're about an hour and 20 minutes in. Had a few down the edge to start with, and then I've gone shallow, got 3 or 4 stockies. But these rud are an absolute nightmare. You can't even put a fixed rig on. Your rig will not get past, it won't even settle. There's so many rud there. So I've had to go on the bottom. I'm going to go back on the bottom now. I had a few in that edge. I had like 3 or 4 fish there and then no bites. Not as many stockies coming in the edge as what I thought they would be. So what I'm going to do now, 3 maggots on. This is why I need this 4x16, so I can just bomb my rig straight down, put my bulk in and just drop my float straight on top of it. Once your bait gets to the bottom, with these rud being surface feeders, you tend not to get mired by them. Oh no, it is a little stocky. I thought that was a rud. Oh, it's perch. Great. We don't want them. With the rud being surface feeders, they do tend to be right up near the surface. I had a couple of bites on the bottom before, but it's not quick enough. The lads up there where the wind and the scum is, they're catching quite steady shallow. I spoke to my mate Sam, who was on this lake on Sunday. He said he didn't catch any rud. He won the lake with like £120, which is making me think there's not so many fish here now, whether it's because it's calm and it's the warmest part of the lake, probably because there's no wind on it. You know, them rud just like being up where the sun is, and you know, maybe not as many F1s here at the minute. I've not had any older F1s shallow. What I have caught has all been stockies, but I have had 3 old ones and a little carp about 2.5 pound in the edge, but not as many stockies. So we're catching, you know, it's just, I'm hoping that these rud will bugger off, because at the minute I'm having to fish a jigger when I do go shallow. I can't work out where the fish are. I can't put a fixed rig in. I've been down all the way to like 3.5 foot deep, nothing. What fish I have caught have generally been around about the 2 foot sort of mark. I'm looking at the other lads, what sort of depth they're catching at like 2 footish. Now I can get an odd bite doing this on the bottom with maggots. And like I say, most of the times, once it gets to the deck like this, you're alright, you don't get rudded out. But the stamper fish is nowhere near what I want it to be. It's a much better stamper fish in the edge, but I just can't get enough bites there yet. I think it's going to be a case of me just trying to tick over, just trying to catch. See, that one's only about 4 ounce, can swing that even. Just going to be a case of like, put what I can in the net, hope that a few better fish turn up shallow later or in the edge. Otherwise you could sort of be like a busy fool catching all these little stockies on the bottom. You know, the stamp that they are on the bottom, you could probably catch 100 fish and you're not going to have £100. So definitely not. See, that there looks like, when I feed I'm getting an odd boil from rud. That one did look like a slightly better stamp fish. Just need enough F1s to come in your peg and push them rud out. Whether they will do or not, I'm not sure. You might just get mithered by them all day. And this is probably as good as it's been all day on the bottom. But again, they're like 6 or 7 ounce, maybe that. It's not really the stamp we're after, but for this early part of the match, I'm not going to be fussy. I'm just going to keep catching whatever I can. Just fishing 3 maggots on the bottom. Tried double, not as good. So 3 maggots. Probably the fact because my maggots are quite small as well. More of a visual thing. If we had some big maggot, you know, if we had the old Lane Special or Adlington maggots, you know, we'd probably be able to just put double on. But because they're not the biggest of maggot, I need to put 3 on just so it stands out that little bit better. I'm wondering if ground bait would have been slightly better in the edge. I've not mixed any ground bait up because lately it's not been as good. You know, it might get them in the edge, but then I might struggle to catch them and get loads of liners off it. So I'm going to stick to my guns, I'm going to stick to pellets. When they have come in the edge, I've been able to catch them reasonably easy. When I've put a piece of corn on, I've noticed that I've only had better stamp fish, but it's too slow. You know, I'm missing out on any stockies that come in the peg. So expander's probably been my best hook bait down that margin. So I'm going to stick with sort of micros and expander for now, until I feel like there's just better stamp fish there, whether it be the old F1s or the big stockies. And then I might try corn sort of a little bit later on. So again, probably had 3 stockies there for £1.50. But probably caught them in like 3 minutes or so, so I'm just going to tick along. I just can't really do nothing at the minute. It's quite easy to go and look for some better stamp fish. Rod hanging on the end of that. Quite easy to go and look for some better stamp fish, but hopefully as the day progresses, it'll either go 2 ways. The fish will follow the wind and my peg will get worse, or with this little bit of space we've got, maybe the fish will come to me and I'll get an extra run because of that extra space. So it might actually get better. I feel like if that peg to the right of me was in, it would get worse as the day went on, but we've still got a chance that the last 2 hours it might actually come good. You know, this right hand edge could actually come good. I don't feel like it's too shallow when the fish are coming in. I've got a bit of depth there. I just don't feel like there's lots of better stamp fish there at the minute. When I first started, I thought I was just going to catch a stocky. I chucked down there 2 quick stockies, few indications. It's not been like that when I've gone back in on it. I've tucked it right in to get against that bank now. I've probably got about 18-19 inch, I would say. So it's not too deep, not too shallow. It's just a nice depth to catch F1s and maybe an odd carp that might come in. Like I say, the carp haven't really been showing much, and it's not a great carpy area anyway, to be honest, so I'm not expecting lots of carp here. I have given 100mm down the edge. I weren't gonna feed it very heavy. 100mm not heavy, but I weren't gonna put many big pots in. But because I'm getting no bites off stockies, I've nothing to lose now. I might as well try and attract some better stamp fish there. Well, it's only an hour and 20 minutes into the match and I'm already thinking like, that's got to be a better stamp fish line. I'm not going to get enough bites. Looking by what's happened, I'm not going to get enough bites from stockies in the margins. Most of these stockies seem to be in the middle. See that there now, it's just a couple of little stockies and then a little perch, so I'm just going to go back in the edge. I had two or three fish shallow, and then that's gone funny again. So let's just have another little look down this margin. Just fishing a 4mm. medium guru on. I've got a large on. I tried that large before, that was no good, so go back to that medium. I think the problem when you feed a large, too many pellets and your expander doesn't tend to stand out. So when I'm catching on expanders, I generally find like the medium's the right sort of size for it. Now last time I did this, I went in, I caught 3 or 4 fish quite quick, so it might just be a case of alternating these 2 lines and hopefully pick off an odd better stamper here as well. Can't see there being that many big stamp fish on the bottom. There's no blows or anything coming up. Nothing to say that there's a lot of fish on the deck. I'm getting a little sign there on my float, so there's something in my peg. Little bite then. Just chop my line down as well, just so I can rest my pole against the bank. If I can rest my pole, it just makes it easier to feed like that. I'm not moving my rig. Just put that pole tip on the banking. Just keeps it still. Sometimes when you're twisting to feed, you go like that and you twitch your float a little bit. I ain't got much margin of error here. I've literally got a little 2 or 3 inch shelf and that's it. When I'm fishing on the bottom, I'm not getting any liners as well. Like, I don't feel like there's a massive volume of fish anywhere. But early days, you know, I've got probably, I'm not counting them little tiny stockies, but we've probably got, say, the equivalent of 15 fish. I'm not even going to try to guess my weight because I'll be absolutely miles out come the end of the day. So varied in stamp. But at the minute I would say the pegs at the top end of this lake probably catching a little bit quicker than me. So it's not looking great, but we're only a third of the way through and a lot can change in sort of the last 2 hours of the match, so fingers crossed it starts to pick up a little bit better. I need to be getting a few more signs than this at the minute. Stick with that expander. You'll know when there's some better fish arrive because they'll start muddying this edge up a little bit as well. See, there's a better fish there now. Just had a little vortex down there then. Only a slight one, so it could still be a stocky, but I wouldn't say it wouldn't have been a carp. I would imagine it was a little stocky F1 or an F1. But there's a sign there then. Little liner there. There we go. What's that? Don't feel hooked right unless it's just not fighting. It's just not fighting, I think. Better stamp one. So that's one of the older stamp fish. I've not had any of them fishing down the middle. It might be one of them days where if you want to try and catch some better stampers, it's all going to all be edge fishing. But saying that, I'm looking at Danny Weeder to my left and he's had an odd better stamp one shallow, so hopefully some better stampers will come on that shallow line later in the day. So we'll persevere for now. That's where we're up to. Probably equivalent to like 16 fish, so we're getting plenty of bites like we thought we would. We've probably got more than 16, well, we have got more than 16 fish. We've probably got 6 or 8 little stockies, we've probably got 20 odd fish, so we're getting plenty of bites. But we need to try and find some better quality. Otherwise we'll end up with 70, 80 fish for 60, 70 pound. There's another little sign then. I'll just pick them off steady in this edge. You know, £100 is not a massive weight if you can just pick off them slightly better stamped fish. And there's loads of like 2, 3, 4 pound F1s in here. You get a little run of like them 2, 3 pounders. You know, you could catch 10 down there for 25, 30 pound in no time whatsoever. You could easily catch 40 pound, 50 pound even in the last hour down this edge if they turn up. So it's just a case of like not sitting here now and doing nothing. You know, don't sit here and let time pass me by. Give it like 2 or 3 feeds down here. If they're not there, keep feeding this maggot down the middle. Can't see. I'm only going to ever drop on the deck if I'm absolutely desperate. Sometimes I'll drop on the deck just to see if I get any liners as well. Like I say, it's a bit annoying because you can't fit, with so many rudd in your peg, you can't just drop a little light rig in and see if you can get some bites. If I drop a light rig in, or any form of, you know, if I put my little dibber in, you slap it over, there's a rudd hanging on the end of it. So I'm having to fish a jigger, and it's a lot harder to work out whether the fish have come up high. I've not caught anything right near the surface. As soon as I do that and I have my jigger like 16-inch deep, it's just getting ragged to death by a rudd. So most of the fish I have caught shallow have been around the 2 foot mark. Little indication then. Just going to feed that again. So yeah, we'll have another little catch up later on, probably about halfway through the match, see where we're up to. Hopefully things will start to improve. We'll have a better picture of where we need to be spending our time. I feel like I need to catch shallow to do well today, and this little ripple we're getting now might help us a little bit better. I feel like I need to catch shallow, but I just don't know whether it's going to be a shallowy day. When I drew this morning, I actually thought I was on the peg to my left. I thought I had the aerator. That little bit of cover would have been massive. So I was a little bit gutted when I got here because I thought, well, that's quite simple. I'll just fish shallow to the aerator. The fish probably would have come a little bit higher. Probably would have been a little bit better there if I was on that peg to my left. So come back in a bit, we'll have a little catch up in about an hour's time, something like that. Sort of 2 hours to go, just over 2 hours to go. Just had a little run in my edge of about 5 or 6 fish. I had a carp sort of 2.5, 3 pound, big F1 about 2.5 pound, a couple of stockies, but it's just picking up ever so slightly. Another little indication then. I can't catch nothing shallow. The deck is just small fish, and then to be honest, it's not very good. It's not going to be a winning tactic, or it's not going to be how I'm going to get the most out of my peg. I think winning is out of possibility now, but it's not going to how I'm going to get the most out of my peg. So I have a decision to make now. Do I stick alternating left and right, shallow and edge, you know, down the right and shallow out in front of me, or do I try and make this edge work and give up on my shallow line? So in a minute I'm just going to give it a little bit of bait down here, because I feel like if I'm going to catch any better stamp fish, it's going to be in this edge. You know, an odd little carp, maybe an odd F1. I feel like this could get better last hour and a half, hour and 10 minutes. Whereas my shallow line, yeah, it could come good, but there's still loads of rud there, which lets me sort of think that there's not so many F1s there. So if I go in now and it's not solid shallow, I'm probably going to give up on it, because me feeding my shallow line, what you tend to find is any fish that are sort of sat in the middle there, I'm stopping them coming in the edge. You know, I keep feeding that shallow line and on the deck, and that is splitting my fish between these two lines. Whereas if I stop feeding that, I feel like this might get a little bit better. I'll just add another little sign then. So what I'm thinking now is I'll just give this 100 mil, give it 10 minutes shallow. If it doesn't go, I just don't feel it's quick enough, I need to try and, you know, not force my edge. You know, I can't start filling it in because I don't feel like there's enough big fish here. I'm just going to have to kinder. I've tried corn again, it's too slow corn. Maybe last hour it might be alright if some better stamp fish turn up, but at the minute there's still an odd stocky there. And to be honest, soft pellet's been better than corn anyway. So that's where I'm at with this. I'm just going to have one more feed down this margin. And whether I catch a fish or not, I'm going to have a look on that shallow line, because I need to make that decision now as to whether I need to stop feeding it. I'll probably drop in and it's solid. I almost don't want to catch shallow because I feel like this will be my best chance. But obviously if it starts going under, I've got to continue with it. But I just feel like if I stop feeding shallow, this might just... The amount of times that's worked on these narrow canals like this. You know, you're throwing bait in, you're only 6 metres out, throwing bait at 6 metres. As soon as you stop feeding it, they're going to come looking for food then, and hopefully they start to linger in this edge, and you know, more fish gather there and you just get bites quicker and it slowly gets better. You know, we've had some bites, we've just had a lack of fish. Don't feel like there's lots of better stamp fish here. I feel like they'll be in the wind at the other end. Unless it's fishing hard, I mean, you don't know, it could be fishing hard and it's not as good as what you think it'd be, so I'm just going to give them like 75 mil. I'm not going to give them a full pot, because I might be back down there in 10 minutes. I don't want to put too much bait in, but just feed that margin. I'm going to go back to my jigger rig, which was about 2 foot deep there. That's sort of been where I've caught most of my fish, so I'm going to go back to that. I did think about throwing maggots down this side, but again, I don't know what... I've not been coming, so I don't know whether that'll be any good or not. It used to be good when there was a lot of carp in here. So all I'm doing with my jigger is just flicking it. Got a 4-inch hook length. I'm just flicking it up so my hook bait, there we go. Didn't really want that to happen, but I was hoping it'd just be dead and then my mind would be made up. Well, this feels like a better one. That's the first proper F1 I've had, so that's a good sign. No, I'm catching them shallow, it's fine. What I didn't want to do is go in and just catch an odd stocky, because even if I catch 10 stockies shallow, it might only be £10. I just feel like Don't need nowhere near as many fish when I'm fishing in the edge. Again, just feed, just little flicks. I'm just trying to get that hook bait wafting up. This is the KJ jigger. Kristen Jones showed me this one. Normally on a normal jigger, I would fish it, I'd lift it up and I'd lower it down slow. I'd flick it up and I'd try and find the level the fish are at. But on here, the fish love the fish getting wafted about. They love your hook bait being wafted about. So a little fast flick like that, drop your tip again. That seems to be the best way to catch someone here. You know, they've been caught on that overshotted rig so many times. See, there's a little rud hanging on the end of it. Still some rud there. You don't get nowhere near as many rud when you fish overshotted or a jigger. I've tried deeper, I've not had a fish deeper. I'm just going to try a little bit shallower now, just keep my pole tip like 6 inch off the water. So I'm probably like 18 inches or so there. Whenever I've come up any higher, I've just had rud attacking my jigger. There, like that. It's like the rudder in that top 16, 18 inch of water, and you've got to just get below them. And then you'll have a chance of an F1. Again, another little rud. Don't know if you can see it on camera, but oh, there was a better boil there then. Something a bit bigger in my peg. These little RW dibbers as well, they've got no weight on the bottom of them, so what tends to happen, when you flick your rig, your jigger will just go on its side and it just slows that fall down a little bit as it recocks itself. Some jiggers you can't flick it like this. Like I say, Christian's had loads of success in the past, and when he showed it me, I was like, nah, you don't catch fish in the jigger like that, you've got to keep it still. But on its day, just working that little zone's really effective. It's not worked a great deal today for me, but on the other lakes I'll be able to go in with a little light rig, set it at a depth, try and nick an odd fish, and then when I knew where they was, I can try that. But every time I pick a fixed rig up, I can't even fish it for 2 seconds and there's a rud on. Spoils it a bit really. Does me head in when you've got a venue full of nuisance fish like that. You can't, you know, you're limited to what rigs you can fish then. You can't fish a little nice strung out rig and try and catch them like that. And yet at the weekend, we had a load of rain. Spoke to my mate Sam, who won the lake with 120. And he said he hardly caught any rud, but maybe the rain had put the rud off. So I've had that one fish now and then they've just sort of deserted me a little bit. Not a bad thing, because I feel like I don't feel like this is the right thing to be doing anyway. I feel like that edge is going to be my best bet. So I've gone a little bit deeper. So on my other jigger, I'm just going to set my stops like another 8 inch deeper than what they are on that rig. Just in case they're sort of sat like half depth. If they are sat really shallow, then I just can't get to them because of the rud. Because whenever I come right up, it's just rud, rud, rud. You can see them still boiling there now for the bait. like little piranhas. Jumping out the water for them. The state of that. Oh, there we go. I've potted that edge. I keep looking for signs, but I'm not seeing lots of signs there. If there's any bigger stamp-fish, especially carp, they'd have been mooching about in that edge. Even the F1s, to be fair. I'll have another go on that. Like, you can catch an odd fish like this. It could come really good last hour, to be fair. You know, everything about it, with the space and all that. You've got every chance that it could get a bit better, but I need to make that decision in the next 10 or 15 minutes whether to sack it off. Definitely helps when them ducks are in your peg as well. The problem is when you fish a bit of a longer line like this, they don't like it. They're scared of that pole tip. That's where the overshotted rig can be better, because you tend to have your pole tip on the water and you don't spook them as much. Don't know what to do here now, to be honest. Let's have a go at like 18 inch, just in case I'm missing out on them fish. There's a little bit of colour in that edge, so something's down there. Just seeing a boil. I was just saying that there's no boils. Just seeing a little boil there, so there's definitely a better stamp fish there. Definitely worth a stocky. See there, rudd. All them rudd are sat right up near the surface. Bit of fizzing going on the bottom. Again, I think there'll be smaller fish. Don't want to drop on the bottom and catch a few 8-10 ounce fish, and can't see me catching loads of the older stamp fish. Again, I can feel little plucks all the time on this. Feeling this, I think I need to make that decision and sack this off, so let's have a little look back in this edge. It's hard when it's like this because nothing's standing out telling you what you should be doing. Obviously, if you're getting one to chuck on a certain line, your mind's made up, but is what match fishing's all about, making them decisions, trying to get the most out of your peg. You know, just because someone else is catching shallow doesn't mean you're going to catch shallow on your peg. So straight away a little indication as I've fed. bit of mud coming up down there now, so hopefully there's an odd bigger older F1 sat down there. Being so flat and bright doesn't help, definitely. Fish has just spooked out my peg a little bit. Get out of it, fly. I've tried upping the feed on this line, going to like a large girder and a piece of corn. It's not really worked for me. Just fishing an expander and a medium girder has been best. Might try and force it later in the day again, try a bit more bait. Even the stockies you get down the edge like that one, it's probably over £1. Just keep that back shot close. Right, what have we got left? 2 hours left. Still a long time to be giving up on your shallow line, but just can't see that being the best line, so if this goes under again, I'm going to gamble and make that decision to just sack that and concentrate down here, because I feel like last hour of the match generally always gets better in your edge. See again, signs straight away. I weren't getting this before, so it feels like there's fish lingering in the area now, almost waiting about. You'll get little runs where it's good and bad, but then hopefully last hour it should just be steady away. Yeah, I'm gonna sack that shallow line off. Just focus, just try and make this edge a little bit better, because otherwise all I'm going to end up doing is splitting these fish. I can concentrate fishing down there a little bit better as well. I don't have to keep turning around to feed and stuff like that, missing an odd bite. So that's what I'm going to do. Sack that maggot off, stick with this, and hopefully this will start to improve now and have the last couple of hours down here. Not necessarily going to feed for any bigger fish. I'm just going to carry on fishing like this and hope that the bigger fish naturally turn up. See again, I fed there and the fish was straight onto that. So yeah, I feel like I'm getting enough size down here now to sort of stick with it, and I feel like I'm going to catch a better weight fishing there than what I am shallow. I'll stop feeding that, more fish will come in hopefully, and it will get even better. So that's what I'm going to do. That's what I'm going to spend my last 2 hours doing this. Just feeding regular, not putting any more big pots in or anything like that. I'm just going to kinder regular, small amounts, just because I'm fishing a formal expander. I don't want lots of bait. Sometimes if there's bigger fish there, like carp and F1, big F1s, I'd go a bit more aggressive with the bait and fish like a large or a paste pot, especially if I was fishing with ground bait. But because I'm fishing with pellets, I'm just trying to set a little small trap, catch that fish, start again. And then in my stamp changes, that's probably when I'll put a large on, maybe a piece of corn, and try and up my feed a little bit that way. But the large girder is about as many micros as I'd probably ever feed on this venue, to be honest. A couple of little silly signs there, probably stockies. A couple of little fast sideways twitches on my float. So yeah, we'll stick with this for a bit, sack that maggot off, and hopefully when we have another catch up in a little bit, I'm getting a few better stamped fish slightly. Say that one fish I had shallow when I first went back on it, them older fish, these ones, this is the first one I've had shallow, whereas I feel like I've got more chance of catching them down the edge. And they're probably like 2 and a bit pounds. You know, I'm not going to need loads of them to get to like another 40-50 pound this last 2 hours, so that's where we're at. We'll have a catch up, sort of an hour to go, and hopefully things are going a little bit better, because we've had a little bit of a slow last hour, if I'm honest. But like I said, this sort of peg, it was going to go two ways. You'd start to run out of fish, or with the space you might get that little run again at the end. So I'm still optimistic that we could still get another little run. If that peg had been into me right, I think we'd be really struggling now, but you know, we've got enough room to draw a few fish up. Hopefully we get a good finish. So we'll have a little have another little catch up, about an hour to go or so. Been steady down this edge. It's not been as many bonus fish as what I thought it would be, but it's still been steadier than what I think shallow would have been. The only problem is now I've tried to force my peg. Just have a little drink. I've tried to force my peg with a large pot and a bit of corn. First chuck I caught an F1, like 2.5 pound. And I thought, hey up, here we go. And then I fished it for a few chucks, and just the stockies won't have it the same, they're not taking it. So I feel like I can't force my peg. I can't sit there and be patient. If I fish expander, I catch the stockies and just take the odd F1 as they come. Getting a little bit of a liner there. I feel like there's a better stamp fishing my peg now. See if this goes. But yeah, I can't feel like I can't force my peg. So to be honest, it's sort of like I'm just consolidating in the fact that just catch what I can, just keep ticking over with pellets, 4mm expander on the hook, catch the stockies, and just hope that this last hour some better fish turn up, or fluke a couple of carp or something like that. I feel like if I put any big pots of bait in, or if I sit there with a piece of corn and feed a bit more aggressive with a bigger kinder pot, I just feel like I'm slowing my peg up all the time. So it's just a case of ticking along and trying to put whatever I can in the net. Should I have carried on feeding shallow? I don't think so. I don't feel like there's enough bigger F1s in this area where it would have come good. I could have maybe caught stockies there, but to be honest, I've been catching stockies quicker in this edge than I have shallow. Them rudd was still there with like 3 hours to, 2 hours to go. They should have gone really after an hour. I think lack of ripple, and there's probably just more fish at the other end where the wind is. I was hoping this space might help me a little bit, but to be honest, everyone's got a little bit of space, so even them in the wind, it's not like they're pressured and they're just going to back off to this end of the lake. I feel like if that peg to me right had been in, I'd have really struggled today. But we've managed to just keep ticking along and getting bites. This lake's definitely changed this last sort of 12-18 months. Less carp, sort of been replaced with stocky fish. So you're getting a lot of bites, but you can't really, this was never a good carp area, to be fair anyway, but I never feel like I can get myself out of trouble here with some bigger carp. Some pegs will catch 8 or 10 carp and they'll bump your weight up. But I feel like if I did that now, I'd probably ruin my peg, to be honest. So it's a case of ticking along and just trying to put whatever I can in the net. I don't know what I've got weight wise. I've had quite a few fish. I must have had, I don't know, 40 odd fish. We've had plenty of bites. just not had anything of reasonable size to bumper's weight. So I ain't got a clue what weight I've got. Oops, little bugger. The only problem with expander is you feel like you've got to catch the fish the first time it comes in. It's a bit slope here, so I'm fishing about 2 inch over depth. I'm sort of like drawing it onto that little slope bit. Got like a little dark patch there against the bank for about 6 inch. If I go like 2 inch to the left, I'm just touching the bottom. If I come tight in, it's like 3 or 4 inch over depth, so I'm just sort of drawing it onto it. It's not ideal. It would be much better if the bottom was flat. But you've got what you're given. When you're fishing on them little slopes like that, you just got to take sort of an average depth and draw your rig onto it. Try and be as accurate as possible. This is what it's been like. 3 or 4 quick fish and you think, right, they're there now, they're staying on my bait, and then they seem to disappear again, and then you might get one, get another 2 or 3 really quick, dead nice and easy, and then all of a sudden it changes again. I don't know if it's because an odd better fish comes in your peg and then they just take over or what. Shouldn't really matter, to be honest, because it's only really F1s that are coming in my peg. I'm not getting like big carp coming in, which would probably put the stockies off. So a little liner then. Odd signs there, it's just not solid with them. It's just one of them frustrating pegs where you can't really do nothing. You know, if we'd have been on that lake one today, I feel like I could be catching carp this last hour now if I weren't catching shallow, or I couldn't tick along with the stockies. I feel like I could be filling it in down one of my edges and probably catching some carp, whereas this lake I just don't feel like I've got that option. Even on lake 2 you've got that option of a few bigger carp turning up. So a bit of a disappointing draw, to be honest. I'm sat there now thinking about the pegs on this lake. I thought the room might have helped me a little bit better, but it's probably one of the last pegs I picked, to be honest. If the wind were blowing down here, I think it'd be a totally different ball game. I think it'd be absolutely solid in this edge, and you'd probably catch a load of fish shallow as well. But you'd need a southerly wind for it to be in your face here. Today's a northwesterly, so it's going up towards sort of like 8400 area. Getting little signs, there's definitely a fish in my peg there, whether it's an old F1 or stockies. Come on. This is the problem when you fish expanders, you just don't feel like they can pick it out sometimes. Like I said, if I put a piece of corn on, it's slow. Don't feel like worms will be right. Ground bait and maggots has not been brilliant the last few weeks for me when I've been coaching on here. What's happened the last few weeks, we've had a bit of rain, so the fish have dropped into a little bit deeper water. They're just slowly coming back into this shallower water now. But the lakes have been topped up as well, like all the lakes have been topped up. We've had water pumped into them. So over the past 3 weeks or so, they've all come up sort of 6 or 8 inch. If you'd have drawn this peg like 3 weeks ago, you'd have probably had 12 inches of water there. Obviously any cold water has gone in, it's probably dropped the water temperature a little bit. Probably why the weights have been down ever so slightly the last couple of weeks on here. Still been decent weights, but there's not been any big weights on here for a few weeks. 5 and 6, the originals, like the oldest, the newer sort of lakes, should I say. They've not got many stockies in them. More of the original fish and a few more carp. There's been some good weights coming off them too. These ones, sort of like 120, 140 has been a great weight. I'm going to fed now. That's it, you need to catch them like that as soon as they come in, because otherwise, once they've wafted that bait about, it just seems like they can't pick your pellet up or pick your pellet out. Problem is, they're only sort of like probably 10 or 12 out. Not really going anywhere, but I gambled, hoping that stop feeding that shallow line would bring a few better fish onto this. And even though it's been steady, it's not lit up like I thought it would, so fortunately that's what it is. We can't do nothing about it. Just got to try and make the most out of our peg. I'll try and tick along now till the end. Like I say, hopefully get a good little run in this. It'd be nice if that sun stays in. I just feel like they come in a little bit quicker sometimes when that sun goes in. It's a little bit lower light level. Don't feel like they're as scatty. See if we can get this one first time. As soon as you've had 1 or 2 liners, it just seems like your chance of catching one goes from sort of 80-90% down to sort of 10-20%. You get them first go, so much easier to catch. That was a bit slow, that one. That was probably a liner. Yeah, he had that on there. He's probably come up the shelf with that. Right, we'll plod along doing this. I've laid my bed now. I'm going to lie in it. So I felt like this was the best opportunity I had of catching some better stamp fish, which would have been the only way to sort of boost my weight up. So I still feel like I made the right decision. I don't think shallow fishing would have come good for me. Might have come good in that last half an hour or something, but with 2 hours to go, I'm looking and thinking, how am I going to make this edge line better? I took the gamble of trying to stop feeding the shallow line to sort of bring more fish onto this edge line. It's just not really worked, but like I say, it could just be because the wind's blowing up that way and we get, we're sort of running out of fish as well as. That's a possibility. Might have caught absolutely nothing shallow last hour, so we won't know. But we'll plod on for now, and then we'll either have a catch up at the end if it starts to improve. If not, we'll get weighed in and we'll have a little conclusion. But we'll probably have a catch up right near the end and see how this last hour pans out for us. Right, I'm just doing the last few minutes. Just snap me up length. Just have another little plumb. Take an inch off that. It's been a frustrating last hour, to be honest. I've obviously made that gamble to try and catch some better stamp fish, and it's just not happened. Caught some stockies here, but not really caught any better stampers. Well, I've not even had an old F1 this last 2 hours, which is really weird because I've had an odd one leading up to it, and obviously them two carp. Just get this rig right. There's only about 5 minutes left now. So I've caught stocky steady, but now I'm wondering whether I should have carried on fishing shallow, and maybe that might have been my better chance of catching some of them older ones. It didn't look like it was going to happen. Maybe it wouldn't have happened, but this edge has been a bit of a letdown, to be honest, in terms of stamp. You know, when I say letdown, probably caught as many fish or had as many bites as you ever would on these lakes. But like I say, it's changed a lot this last 12 months, and even though I'm catching fish and the fishing's quite good, I'm getting plenty of bites, I just don't feel like I'm catching the right stamp of fish to compete. Now that could just be lack of fish in this area. Like I said, I don't feel like it's been a brilliant draw today. Maybe there would have been a quicker way to catch these fish. Maybe I'd have fished down this left hand side where it's a bit deeper to the cover and tried to catch them shallow. That may have been an option. I did think about that this morning, but I've never really caught shallow in this left hand edge. But now there's so many bites to be had, you know, maybe that would have been a quicker way of catching them. So maybe a bit of a rethink for next time I come on here. Obviously I've not fished that many matches this year on here. I used to come all the time obviously, but because I've not really been coming this year, it's like you don't know what to expect. I didn't know whether they would turn up in this edge. They obviously haven't, but normally in the past they would do, so maybe that's a bit of an error on my part, thinking, you know, I'll get some better stamp fish down here. I know a lot of the people who've been doing well lately have just been catching shallow, but you know, when you spent 3 hours doing it and it's not working, it's hard to keep doing it. I'm thinking I need some better stamp fish here, whether it's carp or the older F1s. It's just not happened really, so we've still had a nice day's fishing, plenty of bites. Don't think we'll do any good though. I just don't feel like we've had the right stamp to compete. You know, when I've been on coaching on that late one, there's been a lot of stockies and some big carp and some big F1s, and just not getting them carp and F1s here today, so just don't feel like you're putting a weight together. Just come right in against the bank there now just to see if I do get an odd better stamper, but this last 5 minutes just tucking it in that little shelf. Literally got a 2-inch margin of error. If it goes like 2 inch off the bank, I'm going to be off the bottom, so just trying to hold that rig against the bank. Fight a little bit, to be fair. Come on. Lively. See if we can nick another one before all out. The other thing I could have potentially done is big potted ground bait there, but again I just don't feel like that's been right the last few weeks when I've been on. I just don't feel like I would have caught doing that. You know, when you're fishing pellets like this, you do feel like if the carp turn up or the F1s turn up, you can just fish a bigger bait and up your feed a little bit. There you go, just got one right near the depth. Probably a slightly better stamper as well. Not had any of these big ones last hour. I've dropped one back about a pound and a bit as well, about 5 minutes ago. What's this? Oh, where have you been all day, you little bugger? That's what we was hoping for this last hour, you know, a few of these 2.5, 3 pounders, but they've not shown for us. What can we do? We can't do much really other than try and catch as quick as you can on the stamper fish you're on, so Little bit annoying, but it is what it is. We'll get weighed in, see how we've done. Like I say, I've had loads of bites, but you know, next time I come here, I'll be a bit more prepared, I think, for like the stocky bashing. I feel like if I'd have just thrown some maggots maybe down this edge here, you know, might give myself the potential to bag up shallow on them stockies and catch them that little bit quicker. The open water weren't very good, but we'll see how we've done, we'll see how we've fared, and then we'll have a little conclusion. I'll let you know how we've got on. Right, we'll have a little look through bait and rigs. Dead simple today. Obviously I decided to fish pellets there. It's been quite good, to be fair. I don't feel I would have caught as many on ground bait. Could have big potted and been more aggressive for ground bait, but after that last hour not catching any better stamp fish, I just don't feel like there was here, to be honest. So happy with that. Just fishing micros and expanders. I've literally just got a few left, as you can see. I've used a full tub of that, so 3 pints of micros. Just Scretton's micros from Blake's, just the 2mm version. And then hook bait, I've had some corn, so just some Morrison's corn, probably the best one, to be fair. Nice big kernels on that. Maybe a little bit too big for stockies. You know, something like Green Giant's a little bit smaller, but this, I love this for carp fishing. Nice big pieces, nice and heavy. If I was catching some better stamp fish, I'd have been picking the biggest grain of that out. And then some formal expanders that I've just pumped and kept in water. Just pumped them just to speed up the process, really. In the summer, don't mind having a heavy pellet, probably aids it. Just Blake's 4mm, dead easy. Feeding micros, fishing the formal on the hook, and then the only other thing we had was some maggots. Probably fed about 4 pints of maggots on that line before I give up on it. Just white maggots, no reds. I always go for whites in the summer, but that's it for bait, dead simple. The only thing I maybe would have done or brought different was a bit of ground bait, but I know that's not been working, so bait choice has been dead easy. I'll start with my deck rig. I had a few on this, a bit unusual to my normal deck rig. Grey hydro, just so that I've got some control on the fish. I don't want to be getting ragged about by little stockies. I just want to have them under control, net them quickly. 017 mainline, 4x16s, 1.7mm RW Maggie, which is way too heavy for this depth of water. It's probably only 4.5, 5 foot, but the reason for it was them rud. I knew the rud would be an absolute nightmare, so I've just had a nice heavy bulk and then one No. 9 dropper, just so I could drop my bulk in and fold my float on and just bomb that rig straight past them. If you fish like a 4x12, which would probably be perfect for this depth, you would have just never got your rig down. The rud would have been absolutely hammering it. So that's the reason I fish quite a heavy rig. And then I'll talk about my edge rig. Just a 0.3 bagger float, grey hydro, 017, little back shot. That's been a little bit closer there. Back shot close to my float because I want that to hold it against that bank. Like I said, back shots are not just for windy days. They're also to use like a little anchor, like on a ship. That stops my rig getting pulled away from the bank. If I was catching big fish, I might have to put another No. 8 there, just so that I've got a bit more weight to keep that rig pinned against the bank. No good having your back shot halfway up your line, in between your tip and your float, because that will just make your rig drift off. And then I fished a 0.3 muddy, well, bagger, that muddy style float, 0.3 bagger, little bulk, 5 No. 8s, 3-inch hook length, 16s SLWG. I fished 0.15 on that just in case I caught some slightly better fish. And then pot wise, the medium guru's been best, just excuse me, feeding micros in that. When I went up to a large and put a piece of corn on, it just slowed the peg down. So filling that to the brim, little pot of pellets, that were quite good. Loads of bites on that. And then a rig which I didn't use because I just got hammered by rud on it. These are on orange hydro, 017, little 4x8 winter Maggie. Just got a strung out shotting pattern. That's how I caught them last time I was on this lake, but the rud didn't really mither me as much that day. They sort of buggered off after an hour, whereas today, 3 hours in, they're still boiling for me bait, and you just couldn't get a fixed rig in. It was an absolute nightmare. And then I set up a little dibber, which was going to be a long line dibber, but I actually ended up overshotting it and trying that. I added 3 No. 9s to that just to overshot it. Little 0.1 dibber. again, couldn't fish it. It's just, you know, if that was a fixed rig, it was just getting hammered by rudd, so it was absolutely pointless. I ended up overshotting it, trying it a little bit deeper, but again, it didn't really work. The reason I did that is because when I was fishing my jigger, with a jigger, you're lifting it up and you're flicking it. With this, I could move my float up to here. I tried overshotting it, sort of just 2 foot, 2 and a bit foot, and I could keep my pole tip low to the water. The reason for that is I wanted the ducks to come closer to my pole tip, but didn't really work, so they didn't really come any closer. Just felt the ducks might have given me a little bit of cover, but like I say, it didn't really work for me. And then I set 2 jiggers up, one at like 2 foot, and then one that could potentially go up to sort of 4 foot, so probably like 3/4 of the depth, just in case they sat really deep, them stockies. That deeper one weren't really any good. They were both identical, orange hydro, 017 mainline, 2 number 8 back shots, and I just coloured them in with a little marker pen just so they're black and I could just see them a little bit better rather than being silver shot. Depending on the background, I'll either Tipex them and make them white, or I'll paint them black and make them dark so I can just see them better. If it's white water, you're fishing in open water, black works really well. If it's coloured, you know, you can use white if need be. And then 0.4 of a gram RW dibber, and then that's got a little bulk of 5 number 9s, 4-inch hook length, a little bit longer hook length, because what I was trying to do, like I said before, lately just flicking it has been better. What I'm trying to imitate is that bait just constantly wafting up and down, and then eventually the fish take it and you sometimes lift into the fish. It's almost like you do with an overshotted rig. I never personally normally fish my jigger like that, but like I say, Christian showed me that a few weeks ago, and when I fish with it, it's actually been quite good. So there's probably a couple of ways you can fish that jigger. You can lower it really slow. If you know the fish are at a certain depth, lower it really slow, that can be good, or you can flick it. So that's rigs and bait, dead simple. Wait for them to finish weighing in, and then we'll have a little conclusion. I'll let you know how we got on. So a little conclusion of the day. We ended up with 102 pound, which I'm quite happy with that. I'd have took a ton this morning. 70-80 pound would have been about average. Looking at most of the weights, most of that side of the lake, 60-70 pounds, been a good weight. And then 85 in the bowl where the wind's been blowing, he's had 120 pound. He's won the lake, Dave McDowell, and he's had the bigger older stamp, which they do generally live there. It's a good area for shallow fishing. So to come second on the lake, I'm reasonably happy with that. You know, you're up against it with them pegs. If the wind were blowing down here, I feel like it might have been a little bit of a different story. The only thing I could have maybe have done different is I could have tried something different, fish maggot shallow down this edge, but I wouldn't have had enough maggots to do it in the open water, so it's a big gamble, especially when you're filming. You know, you don't want to get it totally wrong, so I went for the safe option of fishing maggots in the middle, up and down, and if it was a bit slow I could fish on the bottom and then I could fish shallow, etc. But looking back now, because I've not had any better stamp fish, well, not enough better stamp fish, I feel like I would have had to catch a lot of fish to do well on this peg. So if I drew this peg again, I probably wouldn't even fish in the middle because there's so many rudd there. I'd probably fish down my right hand edge and possibly loose fade down that margin there, and then being 3 foot deep I could catch them potentially on the bottom or shallow, and you might actually catch them a bit quicker on the bottom with maggots than you could on pellets. Pellets were quite good down there. I feel like I made the right decision in not fishing ground bait, because ground bait lately has just been like this, and with them little stockies it'd be even worse. I've actually caught them quite nice down there at times, you know, feed me bait. If they come in, sometimes you just get one straight away. So peg wise, like I say, I went for the safer option of fishing down the middle. No good fishing on the mud. You're not going to ship, well, I ain't got a mud line anyway, but fishing across, it's no use. You're not going to catch the weights required of these sort of stamped fish fishing 13-14 metres. You know, you need to be catching them quite quick. We've had loads of fish today. I wouldn't like to guess how many, maybe 70-80 fish, something like that. Definitely 70. So we've had a nice day. We've had plenty of bites, probably as many bites as I've had on this lake for a while, just missing a few of the bigger F1s and the carp. So yeah, it's changed a lot. Plenty of bites to be had. You know, weights don't look as good as they used to, but actually you're probably getting more bites than you ever had on here. So nice day's fishing. But I heard Weeder Junior has had 160 pound on peg 34. He's had 60 pound of carp late on. So again, that's the big difference. That's why I sort of gambled in my edge, trying to catch a few of them carp to bump my weight up. But sadly it never happened for us. So we've ended up second on the lake. I don't think £120 will frame. Might do, so we might get a sneaky section win, but I doubt it, to be honest. Lake 1 will probably chuck up an odd weight. It's been fishing quite well. I would expect Lake 1 and 2 to dominate, to be fair. But yeah, something a little bit different. A bit of stocky bashing. Not been here for a while. It's definitely caught me out a little bit, and that's why, you know, going to venues and fishing the lakes, it gives you a good idea. If you just go in and you catch shallow, it's an easy day's fishing. Or if you're just going in the edge and you're catching in the edge, it's an easy day's fishing. But you've got to know what you're fishing for, and that's one of the biggest things. Even though I come to this venue a lot and I know there's a lot of stockies here, I'm still amazed that I didn't catch any better stamped fish. And like I said, I think if that peg had got drawn 77, if you'd have put that peg in today, I feel like we'd have probably ran out of fish last hour and a half, and we might have only caught 70 pounds. So that bit of extra space has managed to get us to a ton. So still a nice day's fishing, lovely day for it. Can't complain, but I don't think we're going to be picking any pennies up this week. So hopefully you've enjoyed it, and we'll see you next month. We'll try and do something leading up to the practice or qualifiers. You know, I've got match this coming up, Fish North and Fish Midlands. So we've got Marston Fields, we've got Fish Forest Lane and Hayfield. So hopefully next month I might do something at one of them venues, depending on what lakes they're on, and try and do something for a little bit of practice, sneaky practice leading up to one of them finals. So yeah, that'll be next month, and we'll see you then.